Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Golf Insider webcast and podcast. I'm Jeff Bergerson. My screen name is JT Bergerson. Joined, as always, by my partner, Zach Turcott. His screen name is Mysteriously. You can find us at fantasygolfinsider.com, where we offer the best premium content. And if you haven't become a premium member, we recommend that you do so right now. Also, be sure to check us out on iTunes in a podcast. Give us a 5-star review. We deserve it, Zach, right?
I think so. I think we've earned it.
Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know exactly when our webcasts come out every week. Last week, Zachary, the Northern Trust Open. It was a Bubba kind of weekend yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he won it a couple of years back. And so second time in 3 years that he's actually won out here. The leaderboard was pretty well stocked with a lot of guys that we were focused in on. You know, obviously we had Bubba at the top. We had DJ at the top. We had KJ Choi at the top. We had Adam Scott up there near the top. So we had a lot of those guys, which was fantastic. So that kept a lot of teams alive because there was some carnage in the middle stages. Sergio just looked like he absolutely could care less.
Lifeless.
About being out on the court. Every shot that he took, hand off the club, kind of walking around off the fairway, way off the fairway where most of his shots ended up, wasn't chipping well, wasn't putting well, and just looked generally disinterested. Yeah. Even when he was only 2 shots away from making the cut there on Friday, I thought, this is it. He's going to make a little surge. He'll get back in. He'll make the cut. He'll slide through, and he'll get some points. And he just kind of kicked it in at that point. Got back to, I think, +6, and then all of a sudden a couple little birdies at the end, and then just for one additional little punch in the stomach, he misses a 6-foot birdie putt on the last hole, which would have given him 3 birdies in a row, would have given 6 extra points.
Yep.
So just one little needle to hurt us. But you know what? We kind of get what we deserve for picking Sergio sometimes, and so after being away for a few weeks and just sort of hearing the commentary from him last year about not being as sure about his motivation to play and things, we'll kind of watch that a little closer. He's going to have his moments this year. I mean, he's going to become a guy eventually again that you can put on your team and use in cash games, and he's going to make some cuts. But right now, I want to see at least a couple weeks where the guy looks a little bit focused on his game before I end up taking him again.
And obviously Jordan Spieth taking an early exit.
Yeah, it was pretty absurd.
That was surprising.
And he was never really competitive
he wasn't.
at all from the outset. And what's amazing with Spieth, though, is he'll have a round like that where he had one, it was just one bad round. The other round he was under par. Right. He shot pretty well. So one terrible round, and I was already hearing from people today, is it over? Yeah. Is he done? And I'm just thinking, wow, man. I mean, the short attention spans that people have. I mean, here just a few weeks ago, he's -30 at the TOC Honda, and just crushing it. And now he has one bad round. Is that it? Is he done now? Is he? Well, I mean, look at Rory on Sunday. Rory went out there and was +7, +8 near the end of the day. So he was terrible on the last day too. So bad rounds, especially at a challenging course like Riviera, that can happen. So I'm certainly not going to write him off. You know, I think the big thing to remember is just don't pay $13,500 or $13,500 or whatever it was for him this week, or some extravagant price over $13,000. I think that's the biggest lesson. It's just really challenging for those guys to pay off their price. They have to win. It looked like Rory was going to come back and have a shot there, and then finishes like 25th for the event. So I think that's the big thing, is just to look at those prices and evaluate really closely. And we didn't like them for cash, though, anyways. We wouldn't have played either of those guys on a cash game team due to price.
So I had some of both just because I thought their ownership was going to be low, and it kind of was, especially Rory.
So steak dinner even now?
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So he was below 10%. We were right on that.
Slightly.
He did come back down to as low as 6 to 8% in a lot of the tournaments that were out there. So we were pretty dead on with that, and things were pretty evenly distributed. As far as that upper half of players were concerned. You know, we had a little bit of bunching around another player. We had Keegan Bradley. That was a nightmare again.
Yeah, you bought into the Keegan Bradley hype again.
You know, it wasn't hype. I mean, he had turned it around. He had played pretty well in Phoenix, so he looked like he was kind of back on his game. This had been an event where he'd played well at, even after he'd changed putters. So I know that's a big thing about people and taking Keegan, as he has switched putters. But he was 4th place last year, in the year prior with the new putter. So he hadn't had trouble before. And he was really on cruise control on Friday. He was -2 and had about 6 holes left to go, and then bogey, and then missed. I mean, just just a kick in the stomach again. They show him chipping on 18, and I'm thinking a lot of times when they flash to a player, he's chipping right into the cup, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe he birdied to end it, and we're going home, and we're going to be happy, and I'm going to have a bunch of 6-through teams, and then the chip goes right past the hole, and it just keeps going just far enough so it's about 4.5 feet, and I just thought, for the next 10 minutes, and they're not showing it right away. It's not live, and you can't get any updates on your phone. So you're just waiting, and you know it's going to happen. And then at the end, that +1. What's worse is when you're reading it on the PGA app. Instead, it'll say shot 4 in the hole, usually.
Right.
It'll just say shot 4 on the green.
Right,
like,
right.
No,
that's not good.
That's not good. So he blew it for us.
Overall, it was kind of like we suspected, though. When we get to these tougher courses with tougher fields, we're going to see the cream rise to the top. And again, we saw that last week, and we're probably going to see it again this week, I would suspect, and in future weeks where we have tougher courses. You have to avoid the big bogeys because you're not going to be able to pile up the birdies like on a few of the other courses earlier in the year.
But overall, it kind of hung together. At KJ Choi, somehow we didn't break his cut streak.
Every year he does well.
Amazing again. So had him anchoring a couple of different cash teams. And in one of my cash teams, I think 5 of 6 made it through and cashed. My other team, 4 of 6 made it through. Had Matt Kuchar in there who had a great performance on Sunday to kind of carry me over the top for that team as well. And the optimal lineup, we talked about it last week again. Right. It's been producing results. So we had another 5 of 6 week for the optimal lineup. Easily won any cash games that it was entered into. So we were really excited about that. I've been starting to write that up in my column every week because people are asking about it. Obviously, not all of us are a bunch of Excel wizards, including myself. I typically have to ask our stat expert or my technical support around my household, which is my wife, in order to help me out with that. So usually they get that to me. I'll write it up in the column. I'll give a little bit of a critique. I was a little bit nervous on having McGirt in there, but I was
nervous about Vaughn Taylor.
Yeah, how did he do? Is he garbage again?
Oh, no, I don't think garbage was the word, but maybe
dog shit? It was the dog shit pick of the week? Yeah.
It wasn't much better than that. So.
No, it was pretty bad, which is frustrating because he had been actually pretty good at that tournament. I feel like if he would have taken 6th place the week before, everybody would have pushed in on him. But since he won, people kind of backed off a little bit. Oh, he's still owned by about 10% of the field.
He's still Vaughn Taylor, and he stinks. So I told you.
I think we need to get like a Vaughn Taylor shirt for you. something through a wacky wager for Vaughn Taylor.
So anything else for Northern Trust?
No, it was a good event. I was surprised. After Friday, I thought maybe things wouldn't go so well, but I looked through ownership percentages. Everybody got pretty well crushed, and everything we put together strategy-wise was solid enough. We stayed away from those young players, which was huge. Patrick Rogers, the Daniel Bergers, the Will Wilcoxes, Smiley Kaufman. I don't know what to do with all those guys just got, we knew it was be a tough time for them to come through on a debut, and they all got crushed. So staying away from those guys paid off huge for us. So that was good. Came out a little bit ahead for the week, so not bad. I mean, we're 1 or 2 shots away from just having a huge week. So moving on.
We're 1 or 2 shots of the week from Shot of the Week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a new sponsor this week, Zachary.
Ooh, yeah, I am excited.
Tell us about it.
Here we go. We have our newest sponsor this week. We've got Swannies. It's a local Minnesota company here. They're really focusing in on bringing casual apparel back to the game. Because even though 60% of all golfers out there are casual, the golf apparel industry is really still aimed at that older, sleeping in their chair on Sunday and waking up for a couple of shots here and there during the television coverage. So the guys here have put together the world's first soft sandal with spikes on it so that you can go out and kind of casually play around and then still go out on the town and wear them around after that.
And they're made in America, which is nice.
They're making sandals great again.
And you can find them at swanniesfootwear.com, and be sure to check them out because they're pretty comfy too. I've tried them on.
We'd also like to thank Swannies this week. They've offered a tremendous discount code. If you go to their website and enter Fantasy Golf, you'll get 20% off of your order for the week.
Go buy some.
Yeah, check them out. They are sponsoring our Shot of the Week.
So on to the Shot of the Week, who was actually nominated by a member of ours, Brock Voss, whose Twitter handle is bvoss91. And he shot this to us on, was it Thursday or Friday? But it's
right away, yeah.
Greg Owen, and it's quite a pathetic hole, and I liked it a lot. I would have paid a lot of money to actually see this take place and unfold. So we'll break down the shot tracker, as you guys like so much. So this is a par 3 fourth hole.
It's a tough hole.
Tough hole, 236 yards. However, as tough as it might be, maybe your first shot should go more than 134 yards, Zachary, because that's what Greg Owens went.
Covered half the distance.
I wish that would happen.
He laid up on a par 3.
Laid up to the unknown.
I do that all the time.
So 134 yards to the unknown, 128 yards to the hole, and then his shot 2, 120 yards to the left rough, 55 feet to the hole.
That's not terrible. Salvageable at this
Shot
point.
3, he hit 77 feet 3 inches. So now he's within 21 feet of the hole.
It's a real solid proximity play right there.
Not that close.
Yeah.
Shot 4, putt was 18 feet, and now he's 2 feet 9 inches from the hole.
Right.
That should be good, right?
Close.
Shot 5, his 2-foot putt actually went 8 feet 11 inches.
Yeah, it's getting into brutal territory.
So now he's 5 feet away. Shot 6, misses the 5-footer then.
Yeah. And then finally taps in.
Shot 7.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Sergio. Sergio had a hole like that too, where he 4-putted as well. I mean, that was a close second in terms of being nominated. So yeah, it was tough. I mean, it was definitely tough, but yeah, I
especially love the 2-foot putt going 8 feet 11 inches.
That's always brutal.
So Greg Owen, thank you for the shot of the week. Brock Voss. Better drink all my shot today, all the residue and everything, so I don't take shit from you, Zachary.
You got it that time.
All right, on to Wacky Wagers. How'd that go this week, Zachary?
Well, Ray Allen is coming back to Minnesota.
Woo-hoo!
I'm very excited. Daniel, one of our most ardent supporters from going back to the first days of the site.
That's right.
He usually does very well, but I absolutely squashed him this week.
It wasn't a good lineup that he
I'm going to go ahead and blame it on Roger. He read into Roger's, but he actually tried to use Roger's picks against me, and instead they got used back against him. So he had Freddie Jacobson in there who missed by a stroke.
That was just a bad break.
He had Danny Lee who missed by a stroke too.
Again, that's a bad break.
Bogeyed right on 18. And then it was just kind of downhill from there. So he ended up only getting 2 through the cut. I had 4 through the cut. And one of the 2 he got through was a guy I also happened to own. So he was pretty much dead.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, we each had him. So he was dead by Friday afternoon, which is always fun. You get to gloat. And you'll notice I like to post the score a lot more often in contests that I've already secured. So it went up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the Ray Allen autograph picture will be displayed prominently back here. It was from his Milwaukee Bucks days.
That's awesome.
So we're pretty excited about that. And also, we received from Glenn here, we got our sweatshirts. These are our Friday cut sweatshirts. So anytime things are going kind of shitty, which oftentimes they can get a little sideways on a Friday, we've got our Legion of Gloom sweatshirts on. They have our names on the back of them.
They're pretty nice.
Pretty awesome deal for going all out on the wagers.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate that. That's a great Wacky wager.
Glenn's another guy who's been there with us pretty much since day one. Back in January. He was one of our first guys on board.
Glenn had a 6-figure win last year.
Yeah, he won $100,000 at Doral. So. And he says he owes me a steak dinner when he comes into town for that. So eventually I'll get to collect on that. So that's a lot of fun too. So great prizes here for that. And I also got a wager with Roger Casey this week that I wanted to make sure to bring up. Because Roger Casey likes giving away free money. You remember how...
I saw that bet. That is free money.
Remember how excited he was last year in Boston when he had to buy my meal? I don't think I've ever heard such a big man cry such tiny tears. I mean, just the entire walk back from the restaurant. You would have thought the guy declared bankruptcy or something as we came back.
Bought you a king crab leg.
Oh, yes. We brought the king crab legs. So I'm coming back for seconds this year. And
so what's the bet? I saw it.
We got into a discussion about Freddie Jacobson because everybody is so excited about this guy. I mean, he's 41 years old. Yeah. He's a good player. He's a solid player. But he had a couple nice finishes to start out the season. But I'm not going to be that fooled. Do I think it's going to be just a Freddie Jacobson resurgence all season? No. This week I kind of like him actually.
I do too.
So that's going to hurt me a little bit.
But what's the bet? Tell us.
But overall, he needs 7 more top 25s throughout the rest
That's
of the season, which I think is going to be very challenging.
That's absurd. I'll give him one this week.
He's got a good shot this week, but I mean, even still, he's going to play in maybe, another 14, 15 events throughout the season. He's
going to take half top 25?
So about half of them, he's going to have to be in the top 25. He's done it one time in his career where he's hit 11, because the bet was he had to meet 11 for the whole season. So I gave him the 4 that he's had already from the fall, and now, the fall, who cares? I mean, nobody's playing in the fall. And he's had 2 to start this season. But then last week was a golden opportunity for one, and he absolutely missed the cut. So he's a middle of the road kind of guy. He's going to pop up every once in a while and do well, but he's not going to consistently be up in that range.
That's free money for you, my friend.
I feel like it is. I really felt like it was, and so Roger, thank you for that bet. I can't wait. We're going to go to a steakhouse next time, and I'm really going to hit you hard.
What's this week's wacky wager?
This week, Ryan Sablotny. We had dinner with him.
Speaking of steakhouses,
down in Dallas, had steaks that we could pick up and hold.
It was awesome,
which was amazing. We'd hold by the bone, so that was really good. He has put up a cowboy hat this week that he got for us down in Dallas. So that will be the wager. I'm even on the season. We're 3-3. Going to get above that 500 mark. Going to start dominating here a little bit. But we've had a lot of fun ones, so keep the wacky wagers coming in. We've got a few people coming up who are in line, but keep them rolling in, and we'll be doing it all season, so it should be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Shall we talk about this week's event?
If we have to.
Okay.
All right.
The Honda Classic, the Tour leaves the West Coast, which is actually kind of exciting.
So we won't even look at Pat Perez the rest of the year.
We won't look at Pat Perez. We won't look at Poa Anua Greens. We're headed to Florida. Bermuda. Yeah. Palm Beach Gardens. We're at PGA National this week, 7,158 yards, par 70. A lot of the big names are coming out. 13 of the top 25 players in the world are going to be playing. A lot of the Europeans are starting to come over now in preparation for the majors. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult course again this week. I like it that way.
We're going to start seeing water again.
Yes, we're going to see a lot of water. We're going to see a lot of double, triple bogeys, people getting in a lot of trouble. And personally, I like that.
And the winds are high this week too.
Winds will be high, so we'll take a look at the weather. We'll get the email sent out Wednesday night and let you know exactly what they're looking at for AM versus PM tee times. Features the bear trap, which everybody has heard of. 15, 16, 17, really tough stretch of holes.
It's kind of the next few weeks. Each of these courses has these real marquee.
Oh yeah, they all have theirs.
The Blue Monster, and the week after that, and a couple others where we get these 3-hole stretches.
Oh, I know.
Just treacherous. So.
Yep. So exciting. A lot of local ties. A lot of guys live in this area. A lot of guys went to college down here. So be sure to take a look at that. I'm sure you'll mention it in your column. Some of the guys who stand out, who typically play well. So look at tournament history. It's pretty key this week. I looked at them, and I looked at it thoroughly, and guys play consistently here year after year after year.
It's another one of those events where you want to start shading towards experience. You're going to have a lot of people. And that was a strategy that worked for us well last week, and I think it'll work for us well throughout this stretch down in Florida, where golf does tend to get a little bit more challenging than what you see in the early part of the year. You get kind of hooked on those guys, the Smileys and the Rogers and the Finaus and the Thomases and the Bergers in the early part of the season. And then we hit these tougher courses, and it starts to throw them off a little bit. Starts to be a little tougher, and a lot of people tend to still own these guys. So, be a little cautious. If you can find a guy who's got a little bit of experience, a little bit of form, that might work a little bit better than some of these flashier types of younger players.
Key stats we're looking at this week are strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained putting, birdie or better percentage, proximity to the hole. And then take a little look at bogey avoidance, too. Those guys who are going to avoid the triples are going to be in contention. If they can't keep it out of the water and can't avoid the triples, they're going to be done because they can't keep up. So those are the stats we're looking at. You can adjust however you like on our model. It's completely interactive, so be sure to do that. Who are you liking, Zachary? You want to start at the top, you want to start at the bottom, or you want to start at the middle this week?
Well, I think we should at least address the couple of the guys there at the top.
Let's do it.
You're looking at Rory at the top. I know you kind of wrote him up as one of your expert picks for the week. He's had a really colorful tournament history here the last
You like
years.
The last 4 years? Win,
miscut, second place.
Right.
So definitely in the GPP range. I'm certainly not thinking of using him for cash. I don't even know if I'll play him for GPP this week.
Here's my question. What's his ownership this week?
Lower.
Lower than last week?
Sure.
I think
lower, like if
steak dinner. It's not lower than last week. It's not lower than 6%.
Well, I'm not saying on the 6 range. I think it'll be probably right around 8%. 8%. I don't see it going above. It's hard for me to think that it's going to go above 10, just because of how high the cost is.
I think so too.
And the tournament people here, when they research golf, particularly for the fantasy side, they're looking at tournament history.
Yep.
A lot of people say, oh, you should ignore it, you shouldn't look at it, but that is what people are looking at when they build their lineup. So if they see a guy with a real solid straight track record, people are going to flood into that. But he's very high priced. He didn't have a strong finish last week.
And people saw that.
And he's had a tricky sort of tournament history here. So I don't think he's going to be overloaded. And there's enough talent there at the top of the field that I think people, I could see 10%, but I certainly don't see it being like 20%. It's not going to be.
I don't either this week. I was thinking about 10% as well.
I'd be really surprised even if it reached 15. So I think about 10% will probably be what we'll see there. You know, we've got Ricky in the field as well. Ricky is always a very popular player. Coming off of a pretty strong finish out in Phoenix a couple weeks back, where he had the disappointing second place. But he's a strong player overall. His tournament history isn't spectacular.
No, it's not great.
So that, again, I think may take people off of him a little bit, but I think people probably will own him a little bit more than Rory, maybe.
Yeah, you know? And then you got Matsuyama, who was shockingly owned by like 5% last week,
everybody
which was
just
nuts.
Well, but a lot of that just had to do with the flu. I mean, he had the flu. Once everybody saw what happened to Jason Day at the Farmers when he had the flu, and then he missed the cut. So everybody's playing pretty cautious at this point, and they're staying away. And
I did as well, because you don't know.
And the thing was, he had a good finish, but he wasn't. No, he wasn't amazing. The last day, he didn't really make any kind of move at all when he had a chance, and finished about 20th or so, somewhere in that 15 to 20 range. So it wasn't like you missed out by not owning him over the last week. But he's in the field yet. He's another guy. He doesn't have a tournament history here. He withdrew 2 years ago in the lone time that he was supposed to start. So I think that always throws people off. They don't see a tournament history there. They're confused. They don't know what to do. They don't know how a guy is going to react to a course. So I don't know that his history, that he will be owned that highly. I think a guy who will be owned pretty highly, if we come back down into the 10,000 range, is going to be one of our favorites. And Pat Mayo's favorite, we can always bring that up in his honor, is Patrick Reed.
Patrick Reed will probably be pretty popular.
He's been really steady here. He's been playing really steady. He's become almost like a top 10 machine. Last year it was more of a top 25. This year he's had a lot more top 10s. He's pretty consistent. So I think people will definitely be using him a fair amount on their GPP games, and I can even see a lot of people stretching up and starting a cash game team. When I was looking at building some cash game teams, Reed was a guy who I started with at least on one of the teams that I've put together so far. Okay. I did. So I think Patrick Reed is a guy that I definitely like a lot there. I think he's 10-6. So, yeah, it's a good price for him this week.
I'll probably drop down. Koepka's a decent option at 10-5 as well. Obviously, you're going to have just for GPPs, I think.
Yeah, I'm not playing him for cash.
No. Brendan Grace is another guy at 10,300. He's coming over. It's his first event on U.S. soil.
You were really excited when you first saw his name. He was going to be kind of your guy. But we saw a lot of this last year, so I'm a little bit gun shy on this. Every week last year, we kind of talked up the new European guy coming over, and without question, they got just smoked.
They did
on the Florida stretch.
We saw it time after time. Alexander Levy and Bernd Wiesberger.
Yeah, those guys killed us. And even when Grace came over, initially, and Willett came over, it took a little while for those guys to kick it into gear. Even Lowry. I mean, they all of them had big performances at some point, but it typically wasn't right away. So I'm still a little bit nervous for guys coming over and making their first appearance, especially a guy like Grace. He's going to be at 10,300. He's going to have to do something to earn that price.
No, it's a little bit scary. I still will have quite a bit of Grace in GPPs this week. It'll be tough to tell. I think there's a lot of buzz around him. Obviously, his worldwide record last month has been amazing.
6 straight top 10s?
Top 10s,
over in Europe?
So people are going to see that. He's amazing. But is that going to push up ownership, or are the masses going to speak and not know who this guy is in like the big field $3 events?
I think we've got enough players out there who aren't kind of in the novice range still, so that you probably won't see it as much in the smaller events.
10% for Grace?
Yeah, I think probably people will wade in cautiously for him initially, especially with how loaded the field is up top. I can't see people just crowding in around him. So I think probably 10%, 12% range is what I would guess.
I was thinking about 15%.
Yeah,
but we'll see what the rest of the industry is talking about, because I know Pat Mayo likes him.
Right.
So that's going to boost up his ownership
with
quite
the
a
number
bit.
of podcasts that are out there and newsletters and picks and things, we're going to hear a lot in the next couple of days. And that's why Wednesday I usually will like to say, hey, we're hearing a lot about this. Shade towards him or kind of shade away. Because a lot of those guys could be great fades by that point.
Yep. Dropping down, there's a lot of good players in the 8,000 range, low 9s that I think are great for building.
I think everybody's going to be talking about Luke Donald this week.
Yeah.
I was surprised. We were discussing potential salaries for him this week. I really thought they would go higher in terms of price.
Just because of his dynamic tournament history.
And he's actually playing pretty well overall. He's not missing too many cuts. He didn't have a fantastic Sunday at Riviera, but Riviera is a pretty challenging course for his game. It's a course where he can't make any mistakes in his game if he's going to go low. Whereas out here, this is his home course. I mean, he's had
he lives in Palm Beach.
5 top 10s here, so he's very consistently up there.
Yeah.
I think he's a fade in GPPs because I think his ownership stretches.
It's gonna blow up.
I think it stretches probably close to 30%.
I said 28 in our prediction model today.
And so I think when you start getting up to 30%, you just gotta fade it. You got to just fade it for GPPs and hope that he has a 25th or 30th. I mean, he's still so cheap though that even if he does have a 20th, he could still pay that price off.
Yes, but also if he misses and 28% own him though, he's not probably going to make you pay because he doesn't have a whole lot of top 5s.
Right.
So he's probably not going to go out and win the event, which then you could just light your lineups on fire if he does. But he's probably not going to burn you too bad, even if he does finish 10th or something and you fade him completely. It's not going to kill you.
There's other guys around there who could definitely have that same sort of upside. So I think GPP play, I'll limit my ownership of them there. Cash games, probably I'll have them across the board.
Probably load up on them.
I mean, for that price at 8,600, you can put in a guy who nobody's ever 100% locked to make the cut. But if you have a guy who is that strong here, who makes the cut all the time at 8,600, and he's got top 10 potential. You've seen it in recent weeks. You can get a 4 or 6 team through. If you get a guy in the top 10 that can launch your team to still end up cashing. So I think Donald.
A couple other guys in that range. I think Brandon Steele is a legitimate option for cash and GPP. Freddie Jacobson, we talked about him at 8,200.
Just got done shitting on him.
Has a phenomenal tournament history here outside of last year. He missed the cut.
But you know what? Last year, when you're looking at results from last year, make sure that you realize that the weather conditions were just totally garbage.
They were
last year. They were. I mean, we had all kinds of rain and winds. It
didn't finish till Monday.
Didn't get finished until Monday, which always kind of makes our life hell.
Yep.
So the scores were quite a bit higher than what they normally would. It was tough for guys to get. I think the winning score was -6.
And up until last week, Freddie Jock had been playing really well.
Rock solid.
So I like Freddie Jock and Steele in that range.
I think so.
Dropping down, anyone else you like in the 8 range?
Well, I do like David Lingmerth. I think David Lingmerth is going to be a really interesting GPP play. I'm a little bit wary of using him in cash games just because you never know. Is he here to play? Is he sharp? Or is he going to miss the cut? Because he tends to either be a guy who misses the cut or top 25. He's on one extreme or the other. And he has had a couple of nice finishes at an 8th and a 25th, I think, over the last couple of years. So he's had a couple really strong finishes. He's disappointed a ton of folks over the last couple of weeks out. So I can see his ownership, especially with all the other guys around him, with the Steels there, with the Donalds there.
Right.
All these other guys who are going to be right around him in terms of ownership. I could see him being overlooked. I could see him being like a 6 to 7% guy. So I think he could be a great GPP play that if he goes off for the week can really set your lineup apart.
Sure.
So, I like him there too.
Let's drop down a little bit. There's an interesting guy at 7,800 coming over from Europe.
Sure.
Young kid named Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Rising star, right?
Rising star. He's been dynamic. The last 4 outings haven't been great for him.
No.
However, he's a big-time talent. There's some uncertainty about him coming over first event. You just talked about it. But at 7,800, I think he's a legit solid GPP option.
I think so. I mean, he lit it up for us when we both wrote him up for the WGC event back in November.
Right.
And he was fantastic over there. He came in right away. I get a little bit nervous with the European guys coming over. Is he going to just ease right into it and start killing it right away, or is this going to take a little bit of time? And I'll ease him in. I'll have him in a couple of GPP lineups.
Yeah, I definitely will.
I'll be watching him while he's out there, but I'm not going to overload yet. It's because, like I said, it does take a little bit of time for these guys. But he is a young talent. I think that guy is going to be a superstar. Give him 2 or 3 years, and he's legitimately going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
So
if he doesn't perform this week, I still have no problem going back to him in majors, WGC events. I'll stay on him most of the year.
In fact, if he underperforms a little bit in the first couple weeks, people are going to completely forget about him. His price is going to drop to $7,000, and then you're going to get him at one of these events on a GPP team. And he's going to light it up and take 5th place, and you're going to be excited that you had him on the roster. So, no, I like that. I think that's a pretty solid play right there.
Right around that level, another GPP option that I'm kind of gravitating toward is Emiliano Grillo.
Oh, he tried so hard for that. Nice.
My tongue doesn't roll.
That's all right.
But I like him as an option at 7,700. He has a tremendous amount of upside. If you look at his track record over the past few months, he's just had a couple bad rounds mixed in there. But overall, he's been...
Makes most cuts.
He does make most cuts, and at 7,700 presents a lot of upside. So I like him in GPPs as well this week. Yeah,
and getting back down, there's another guy down there, a guy who just keeps making cuts, but keeps getting dropped as far as salary. Charles Howell III, 1CH3. Mm-hmm. He was actually pretty terrible last week.
He was pretty awful.
He came out, lit it up the first round, looked great. He was -4, and I thought, this is like one of the rare weeks that I don't take this guy. But the reason why is because I looked at his history there, and he'd played like 15 times. He never finished well. And last year, actually, when I had a love-hate section, he was in the hate part of my column. And I realized why. Well, he was 61st, so a decent guy to stay away from. And so I stayed away last week, was kicking myself the first day, and then he finished, I think, 75th for the event. So we were happy to be away from him last week. But this is an event, actually, where he's done pretty well at cupmaker sort of status. And he's back now at a cupmaker price. I mean, for a while, up there at 9,300, it was getting a little crazy for a guy who absolutely has no shot of ever winning another tournament.
Right.
I mean, 0%.
Zero. You're on record.
Put that on camera right now.
This week, that baby's coming out. Exactly. Someone's going to take the clip.
No chance.
Put it on Twitter when he wins.
Highlight this section of the tape for the rest of his career. He'll never win again. So he's a guy who can't win, but he is a great cut maker, and he's been in good form, and I don't think he's missed a cut all year. So he is a guy, again, who I will probably build a lot of cash lineups around. With his experience. I like him. I have to mention him.
Who are your sleepers this week?
You know, one guy who I think actually will be a little bit of a sleeper this week will be Adam Hadwin.
Okay.
He's been playing really well this season. He's not only has he made 7 out of 9 cuts, he tends to finish in the upper half of the field. I mean, when we looked at a guy like Jason Gore the other week, he had made 8 of 8 coming in last week, but he had almost no high finishes at all. Hadwin tends to lean towards the top 25 when he makes a decent finish. I mean, he's had a couple in there that haven't been too spectacular, but for the most part, when he makes the cut, he tends to have a good shot at being a top 25 player. He finished 31st here last year in his rookie season. He seems to be finding his stride a little bit. Did well last week at Riviera. One of the few guys who didn't just kick it in on Sunday afternoon. I'm talking to you, Cameron Tringali. But he's one of the few guys who didn't kick it in last week, and in the last round, he's actually 1 under for middle of the pack guy. That's good. I always like to see that. It's like a guy who didn't give up the last week, because you always look at the bottom of the field. You see +6, +7, +8. You think, what? Did you just feel like hemorrhaging $50,000 off your paycheck today? That means so little that you just didn't care. So he actually shot -1, finished pretty well. So I was happy to see that. I think he is a guy who still isn't getting a lot of buzz, which I like that as well. So I think he's a really great GPP play this week.
Okay.
6,800.
All right. One guy who I actually sent you one of my preliminary lineups before pricing came out, before anything came out, was Jeff Overton.
And then he withdrew the other
And then
day.
he withdrew on Sunday with a wrist injury.
Perfect,
so,
right? No more.
Unfortunately, I can't tackle Jeff Overton this week, even though he is in the field. I liked him a lot, but I can't because of his wrist.
Great history.
Yep, but if you drop down to 6,300, we both agree on Ben Crane being a very legitimate option.
I want to just open my garbage can and vomit a little bit, don't you?
That's pretty.
Ben Crane?
Yeah,
are we really going
might.
to? Jeez.
And then if you want a super big punt play, and this is a guy I had picked, and then I read Roger Casey's article today, and he actually call him a deep sleeper, is Stuart Appleby.
Oh, I looked at him.
Complete punt at 5,700, but if you're going big-time star scrubs, he would be my guy if I were to pick a guy down in that range. There aren't many options.
He had a decent showing this last weekend.
He looked good last week. He's had a great history here. Yep.
You can always go back to the ass wagon.
You could always do
Tyrone Van Oswegen. Sure. Yeah, the guy gets no respect. He just makes one cut after another. 5,900. A guy's made 9 out of 10 cuts this season. That's pretty impressive. It doesn't take much at that price to. All you have to do at that price is just make the cut, and that is exactly what he's done. And he actually had a decent finish here a couple years ago, if I read that correctly. So yeah, he could be another guy that you look at down there at 5,900. There's not a lot of other things that are looking all.
No, I don't like too many options down there. I'll be staying mostly in the 7s. Okay, I'll give you a couple more. 7,100 Bernd Wiesberger. I think I'll take a shot on in some GPPs.
Sure.
And Sean O'Hare at 7,000. I think looks like a pretty decent.
One thing that was interesting. I don't know if you noticed it on Twitter today or not. I tweeted out that later this afternoon. We saw Chesson Hadley actually put a tweet out there.
Yep.
That said how great he was feeling. Everything was clicking together. He was excited about his game. He was focused. And then his hashtag was send it, which is one that I've seen Will Wilcox use a couple times. So I don't know if he's now catering to the DFS community, but he did take 24th 2 seasons ago at this event. Missed the cut last year, but if he's on the upswing, a guy like that at 6,200, that can be another decent tournament play for you as well. So it was kind of interesting to see that. I'm not sure yet if I'll end up writing him up.
But I've seen guys tweet, like Brooks did that when he was in his funk last year, and he says, oh yeah, feeling good, feeling, like I'm going to do something, and he was awful. So I think a lot of it's mind games. These guys are trying to play with themselves, trying to psych themselves up into thinking that they're better than they are, like Chesson.
Yeah, well, poor Will Wilcox. I mean, Will, at least, what I love about Will is he's painfully honest about still not having his game quite
the only
together.
time he was honest, he screwed everyone who read his tweet.
He wasn't real sure the last couple weeks either, and he's missed a cut. That was the best. We told people absolutely not to play him, and he took 6th place. That was that was pretty amazing. But I do always enjoy at least having a little bit of back and forth. Like the fact that they're acknowledging our community a little bit is kind of nice.
It should catch on.
Yeah, so hopefully that ends up working out pretty well with some of the younger guys. So I think that's pretty good sampling. We'll have a few more things here in our columns over the next couple of days. So definitely be sure to get on there and check those out. Roger always puts together a really nice column. So go check his out today. Mine will be out Wednesday morning at some point once I kind of sleepwalk my way through Tuesday night and knock that baby out. I'll be doing my Periscope on Wednesday as usual in the 9 o'clock-ish area. I know you guys loved having Jeffrey on there in his shirt and tie last week.
That was actually fun.
Yeah, I figured you'd like that.
It was fun once I could get my connection working.
Did you get enough praise heaped on you from the audience to kind of assuage your ego?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
No, I enjoyed it a lot. So everyone who was taking part last week, I had a lot of fun. Connection problems at the start. I don't know what was happening, but I went and sat on top of the router. So then it was good after that, and we got. I love the trolls on there. That's always fun.
I say you blocked a couple people. Do you want to make meat?
That same guy was on. Who are these fools?
I know. Who wants to troll a fantasy golf?
I know. What kind of loser are you?
Periscope session.
My God, that is like the worst.
Yeah, that was entertaining.
So,
good times.
If you have any questions for us, email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. Hit us up on Twitter @fantasygolfers. Otherwise, enjoy the Honda Classic this week.
Headed to Florida.
Good luck with all your lineups. Let us know how you're doing.
Good luck.
Have a good week.